Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'm Kyron Tagulayan. I'm a training here at FICMAT CSIS. I'll be presiding the training for CalPAS End of Year 1 Reporting and Certification. And joining me today as a co-presenter is Nathaniel Holmes, one of our trainers here at CSIS. Today's session is a 2-hour session, and we will be discussing the data requirements, and we'll be doing demos and also explaining the reports related to end of year 1 training. So our target audience for today are, of course, our SIS data coordinators, because all of the data that we expect will be coming from your SIS. Then, of course, if you have your bosses, your supervisors, and any admins who would like to join us, we also welcome you guys. And as a reminder, end of year 1 involves data for departmentalized courses in grades 9 to 12. If you inadvertently registered for a session and you're in elementary school, K to 6, and are not required to report, then you're welcome to leave. So this session is just part of a series of training that we conduct here at CSIS. We do have a combination of self-paced training and live sessions that we do every submission. So as you can see, we have the end of year 1 reporting and certification here. And then we also have those CalPAS basics and data population training, and also an update on the file submission redesign. So some videos specific to the redesign process are also available. And all of the self-paced training are in our YouTube channel. And of course, in a few weeks, all of these sessions, the live sessions for end of year 2, 3, 4, and 1 will also be posted in our YouTube channel for your reference. So what's our objective for today? As always, by the end of the day, we expect that you would be able to identify the changes that is happening in relation to end of year 1 collection, and also the requirements that we expect you to fulfill for end of year 1 submission. After this, you should be able to prepare your local system for gathering the data and also submitting the data in CalPads. Then, of course, you'll be submitting the files to CalPads, and then also correct any submission errors. Be able to employ the different tools in CalPads to analyze any issues that you encounter while uploading files to CalPads. And then, of course, at the end of the process would be your certification. So end of year 1 and other end of year submission, the projected deadline is August 26, 2022 for end of year. And so hopefully by then you have resolved all of your record errors and also certification errors, and also analyze all your reports and finally certify before the submission deadline. So our agenda for today would be, we'll present an overview of end of year 1 data collection. We'll present all of the data that we expect you guys to submit to CalPads. We will do a demo of the certification process, how to resolve some of the key errors that you might encounter. And then Nate will graciously explain the different reports in end of year 1, and we'll do the wrap up. So for end of year 1, it's basically a collection of course completions, CTE completer data, and work-based learning data. Essentially, we would like you guys to tell us who among the students completed departmentalized courses with grades and credits and in this current academic year, and then who among these completers were in a CTE pathway and also completed the prescribed 2 or 3 course pathway, and you guys report that in CalPads. Then of course, we also want the counts of student completion in work-based learning programs. So anyone who is in a internship or working in relation to a education-based program, then this would be reported in CalPads. So before we move to the nitty-gritty details, let's just do the 10,000-foot view and see an overall process here. So why are this data required? So essentially, Again, you have your local systems where you store all of this data in CalPads in compliance to our requirements. Then this data is then submitted to CalPads, used in TOMS, and then also used for data quest. Once you certify, it will be used for data quest, and then that data will then be processed and then interpreted in the California dashboard, and then also on ed data. And then of course, the process doesn't stop there. CDE, the state, in turn, are compelled to report specific data groups to the federal government. And so these are all of the requirements, not just for end of year one, but other requirements that is relation to end of year submission. So you have here your Carnegie unit, your CSPR, Carl Perkins reporting, IDEA, ESA, and all of these other federal compliance that the state needs to meet. And so they ask you guys the data for them to fulfill these requirements. So I've mentioned part of that is the California dashboard. And so within the California dashboard, we want to know who are the students who are college ready or career ready. So we have the CCI readiness matrix. So this is basically the data that you send in will be used to determine the readiness of a student. The ones boxed here in red are the ones directly coming from CalPads. Okay. While the other ones could be assessments, and CASP or any IB and AP exams. So all of those are also used. So just an overview of the requirements. So here are the files required for end of year one. You have your SCNR, SDM, CRSC, SCSC, SCTE, and work-based learning, WBLR. So you would wonder, how come we need to update SCNR? So, this is an end of year submission. You still need to update your student profile. Yeah, so SCNR, you have your synth, you have your SILA, you have your SPRG. Any changes in those program file types would also impact how students are viewed in these aggregate reports. And so if you have students who have been EL and now RFEP, then you have to report the RFEP record, right? So you have to establish the student profile updates first, but only for those that require updating. You don't go and extract your entire file this academic year, regardless if there were any changes or not. So we only want those changes that happened to the student throughout the year. Any student that require updates, just send it to CalPads. If some students do not require updates, then by all means, don't include that in your file, because sometimes it might keep you from actually posting the real records you wanted to post, okay? So these are the file types. We will discuss each file type in detail, but overall, this is the common misconception with end of year one, right? Because if you see course completion and student course completion in SDM, the automatic thought would be, oh, okay, do I need to match this with data I sent in fall 2? The answer is no. Okay, fall 2 was a different data collection set. It was meant towards staff assignment monitoring, towards letting us know who are the teachers who are credentialed and teaching the courses. So that's a different collection. End of year one is basically telling us in those classes that are departmentalized, who are the students who completed departmentalized courses, okay? And then since we only ask for the SDM, because of course, in the course, you also have to identify the seed number of that teacher in the course, right? And so that's the SDM would just be a placeholder data element. So we don't compare end of year one versus fall 2. So if none of your data matches or only some matches, then that's fine. You could basically submit a whole new course and staff for end of year one, and CalPAS will not even compare that with fall 2. Okay. So in order to submit these courses, you also have to know who are the staff members who you need to involve. So essentially, you need to involve your site staff, your counselors, registrars, program staff, CTE analyst, maybe any CTE resource person, your site admins, and of course, student system support staff for, let's say, if you have work-based learning, and also for SPED folks, you would also want to involve them, especially now that we're at the end of the submission. You may want to know when these people or your support staff will be going on break. That way you would be able to collect your anticipate when they're out, and you would ask the data way beforehand. So within these file types, you have all of these attributes that we will be collecting. Okay, so we'll just discuss this in a few minutes, but generally this is what will be included in these file types that matter most. So this is just a diagram of the relationships that matter with regards to end of year one. Of course, you have to gain ownership of the student you want to report, so you submit your SCNR. You have to gain ownership of the staff that you want to report in these courses, so you submit your staff demographics, right? Now that you have the SSIDs and SEED, you then would be able to report the work-based learning record that the student is eligible or participated in and qualified. And then based on that SSID, you would also be able to associate the student in the course. You would be able to report the student's credits, grades using the student course section completion. Now on this other side, if you have a valid seed, you can submit the course section completion. You could assign that seed to the course section completion, right? You would then associate the course section completion with the student course section completion. And also based on the course section completion, we have the state course code that would then identify if a student is a CTE pathway completer, because there are specific state course codes for capstone courses that needs to match when reporting an SCTE course. So with regards to file submission, I would suggest following the same process, because if you do not submit your SCS, if your course section is missing and you submit the SCSC, you will get an SCSC 139, just like what you did in fall 2. And so make sure that you follow this process. You can, although you can submit SCTE and student course section simultaneously, and it wouldn't trigger any validation. Just make sure staff is there, course section is there before submitting these two. And that also goes with your student enrollment. Okay. So this is just a detailed table of what school types are expected to report end of year data and what grade levels in those school types. Okay, so I wouldn't delve more into this, but then just so you know, this is a legend. P, sometimes we all have these questions about P. What does P mean? P is permitted, meaning schools are permitted to submit but not expected to submit the data. Okay, so you can voluntarily report the students, but then of course it's not expected for a specific school or grade level. So as you can see, we only expect records for end of year for 9th to 12th graders. So in summary, do not report end of year data for grades KN to 8 in self-contained classes. Meaning if you have the state course code 1000, do not, by all means, don't report that. In the Q&A yesterday, there were questions about an error CRSC 468 that involve self-contained classes. So in the first place, you shouldn't even be submitting those. And that way you avoid those errors, okay? Don't submit state course code 1000. CalPads might accept it, but then it's not being used for any purpose. So it's an additional work that you shouldn't even be doing. And then if you have grade 7 to 8 in departmentalized courses, submitting data is optional. However, if you submit it, then that's fine. But if not, it's fine too. However, you might get CERT 99 warnings, which you could ignore should you decide not to submit data for them. So what do we report? You report grades 9 to 12 in departmentalized courses, meaning any course that is not equal to state course code 1000. You report your SDM, your CRSC and SCSE records only for the students who completed a course. If a student was in your class for about 3 weeks and left and didn't complete, then there's no way to report any course completion, right? So you can ignore any Cert 99s that might trigger for those students. And then, of course, you have your SCTE, but you only have to report this for your CTE pathway completers. Okay. So here are your survival kit, meaning these are the things you need to have to be able to effectively and efficiently report data to CalPads. Of course, you need your roles, you need edit and view roles for all of these file types, and then an extract role for your work-based learning. And then, of course, you have to have your EOY 1 reports role to view those reports in CalPads. And then, of course, you have all of this CalPads documentation that you need to be aware of and comfortable working with, right? But the key document here is your valid code combinations, because you will learn quickly that there are different combinations that CalPads looks for in terms of course, in terms of pathways, in terms of standard grade level range. So all of those will be can be you figure it out by using the valid code combinations document. So with that lead in, let me just go to the resources that we currently have that you guys should take advantage of, right? So first of all, if you're in the CalPads website, you could go to system documentation, and that should bring you to the official CDE CalPads system page. You have all the documents here. You could download the error list, data guide, the valid code combinations document. And then, of course, if you want to get updated about any flash that came out that might be related to end of year one, you click on communications and you should be able to see all of the flashes here, flash documents. You also have the CalPads FAQ, which then, anything that isn't in the CalPads data guide, you might find business rules in here, okay, that might have not been updated in the CalPads data guide or CalPads user manual. Then, of course, you have the CalPads user manual. So if you go to help and click on user manual, it should bring you to the user manual homepage. Usually we have a roadmap. The roadmap normally corresponds to the submission that you're in. So if we're now in end of year, so if you click on this, it brings you to this section of the reporting roadmap. So you have here deadline of August 26, no amendment window. Then you also have your end of year submission checklist. This is basically a more detailed reminder of what you guys need to look at for each file type, what data points you have to look for. So download this, and then you have your same CalPads communications, changes in end of year. And then let's go to end of year one here. So here are your files. It gives you a quick summary of what to expect, what to anticipate for end of year one. Okay. And then, of course, part of the user manual, and if you go to here, is the active and fixed known issues list. So this is also a key tool. Unfortunately, in this time, because of all the known issues that we have been encountering because of the process that we have in the post redesign. So by clicking on that, or by going here to help and current known issues, it brings you to this updated CalPads known issues list. It provides you the recent fixes and active issues. And then if, let's say, you have a scenario that you couldn't figure out if it's a known issue or not, you could always click here to click on contact support. And then last but not the least is our YouTube training channel. So as I've mentioned, all of our data population videos are stored here in the training channel. we have the intros, we have end of year data population. So we have file type specific videos that you could look at. So if at the end of this session, you still want to go into details of what is required for each field or what are the other business requirements, then go to this section of the YouTube channel. And then, of course, if you have questions about the snapshot certification process, there is a intro and basic section for that as well. Okay, so those are resources you could take advantage of. Also, you have the California Dashboard Handbook. You also have the Work-Based Learning Toolkit. It's in the links on this PowerPoint that you could download. And then, of course, we have the CTE user guide. It's also under reference here. So let's go to the user manual. In the user manual, if you go to resource and references, this is basically another area where you could download all of the system documentation and more. So you have here the different documents that you might not be able to find directly from the CalPAD CDE website. Okay, so that's just a quick run through of our resources. And if Nate is ready, you could take over and present the course section.